I almost turned around twice during the drive home for Christmas, not because of weather, not traffic, just a feeling I kept trying to ignore. The older I got, the stranger family visits started feeling. Less like returning somewhere warm and more like stepping carefully back into a role everyone expected me to continue playing. Still, I brought gifts, wrapped carefully, expensive enough to matter, subtle enough not to look like compensation. That was always the balance in my family. Be generous, but don't remind anyone you are. When I pulled into my parents' driveway, the house already glowed with warm yellow light through the windows. Cars lined both sides of the street. It was. I could hear laughter before I even reached the porch. For one brief moment, I felt hopeful. Then I walked inside. The dining room was already set. My usual seat, same place I'd sat every Christmas since I was a teenager, was occupied by a guy I'd never met wearing a cashmere sweater and holding a wine glass like he already belonged there. My sister stood beside him, smiling proudly. Nobody looked surprised to see me. That was somehow worse. My mother walked over quickly, touching my arm in that overly gentle way people use when they already know they've hurt you. "We're kinda just doing immediate family this year," she said softly. I remember glancing around the room. Uncles, cousins, neighbors. Apparently immediate family had expanded dramatically. My sister's boyfriend half stood awkwardly, like maybe he realized what was happening too late. I could have argued, asked questions. Forced everyone to acknowledge how humiliating it felt to drive 5 hours only to discover there was literally no place prepared for me at the table. Instead, I smiled, not fake, just tired. I set the gifts down near the tree and said, "No problem." Then I left. Nobody stopped me. That part stayed with me longer than anything else. The silence behind me while I walked back to the car, as though my absence solved something inconvenient for everyone. I sat parked 2 streets away because I suddenly didn't trust myself to drive yet. Snow drifted lightly across the windshield while my phone buzzed occasionally with automated holiday sale notifications and meaningless messages from coworkers. Then, 30 minutes later, the family group chat lit up. My cousin had meant to send the message privately. Thank God the downer left. A few laughing reactions appeared underneath before anyone realized I could still see them. I stared at the screen for a long time, not angry, embarrassed. Because humiliation feels different when it confirms something you've quietly suspected for years. I opened my banking app almost automatically after that. Not dramatically, not impulsively, just clearly. There were 3 active family-related expenses still connected to my accounts. The shared emergency credit line my parents used constantly, the final payment scheduled for my father's birthday caterer the next morning, and a revolving holiday account attached to event deposits for extended family gatherings. I looked at each one individually, then closed them, canceled the pending authorization, removed my payment responsibility, finished in under 10 minutes. Afterward, I drove to a motel off the highway and slept surprisingly well. At 10:11 a.m. the next morning, my phone exploded. Group chat messages stacked so fast I could barely read them. "Call me. Why are payments declining? Did something happen to your account?" Then finally, Ngor US. I sat on the edge of the motel bed drinking stale coffee while reading panic unfold in real time. Apparently the caterer refused delivery without final payment confirmation. The event venue paused additional setup because the linked credit line suddenly disappeared overnight. My father's card got declined, trying to cover the difference because they were already stretched thinner financially than I realized. That last detail explained a lot. Actually, not the exclusion, but the dependency. My mother called crying around noon, not loudly, quiet crying, controlled enough to still sound embarrassed. "You embarrassed us," she said. I almost asked whether she meant more than they embarrassed me, standing in that doorway with gifts in my hands. But I didn't, because suddenly I understood something uncomfortable. Nobody missed me when I left the house. They missed what stopped functioning after I did. That realization hurt more than the seat at the table ever could. My father took a different approach. Angrier, faster. You don't punish family over hurt feelings. I remember staring at the motel wall after he said that. Hurt feelings. As though exclusion was childish once financial consequences appeared. I answered carefully. I didn't punish anyone. I removed myself from things attached to me. Long silence after that. The family group chat went strangely quiet by evening. No more jokes. No more laughing reactions. Just logistical stress and tense updates about rearranging food orders and borrowing money short notice. My sister texted me separately later that night. "I think Mom handled it badly." Not an apology. Just distance from blame. I didn't respond. A few days later, I drove home again, not to reconcile, just to pick up the gifts I'd left under the tree. Most were untouched. That felt symbolic somehow. My mother watched quietly while I loaded them back into the car. Neither of us really knew how to speak anymore. Before leaving, I looked once through the dining room window. The extra chair was gone, but somehow the table still looked full without me.